Did you know God created you with a unique, one-of-a-kind voice print? A sound that this world is waiting for you to release. You're listening to Release Your Sound with your host, Laurean Kile, professional encourager, founder, and visionary of the Launch Collective EXPO. Listen in on the conversation, be encouraged, grow, and learn the power your voice carries and the truth of your identity to live your life beyond what you imagine on earth as it is in heaven. Now, here's Laurean.
Hello. Wow, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Release Your Sound. I'm Laurean Kile, professional encourager and founder and visionary of the Launch Collective EXPO. Wow. I am thrilled that you have decided to join me here and listen in to my very first podcast episode. Welcome to episode one. And thank you. I really honestly consider it a privilege that you have decided to dial in and listen to Release Your Sound and listen to this inaugural broadcast as you would. I honestly truly believe that it is no coincidence that you're here listening in and tuning in to this podcast. That somehow I truly believe that the Holy Spirit has piqued your interest and drawn you to listen in to this podcast and to just find out, what is it about this thing, this releasing your sound? And, what is it about this lady who calls herself a professional encourager? So I want to tell you, just start out with the very first episode, just kind of introducing myself to you and sharing a little bit about, what I'm passionate about and what I truly believe God has called me to do. First, I want to say that, the Lord has been telling me for quite some time that I needed to do this podcast. And I just kept, resisting doing it. Like I thought, who's going to want to tune in and listen to me? But the more I could see the importance of the message that He has revealed to me, the more I knew I had to do this. And I'm thrilled to actually do it. I have a great friend who almost a year ago created the logo for the podcast and everything. So when I tell you, we've been in the works and it's been brewing in my mind and heart, and the Holy Spirit has been really prompting me that it was a now season to launch this podcast. So, with that, here I am. So let me tell you a little bit about me. Why do I call myself a professional encourager? Well, truly, I wasn't always this way. I was always this way. It's just I had forgotten that about me for many, many years. And in fact, in 2014, I had really found myself in a place where I was very, very severely depressed. My marriage of, 23, 24 years was collapsing. It had become a very toxic marriage. I found myself, so depressed and so despondent. Really, I often say to many of my people who come along my path that, I was alive, but I wasn't living. I say, like, it is possible to be dead even though you're still breathing. And that's really where I was. I was a mother of 3, and at that time, a grandmother. My first grandchild had been born, and yet, deep inside of me, I really, didn't really want to live any longer, and I was really broken, and my marriage was crumbled and broken, and ended up in separation. So I was depressed, stressed. Quite frankly, suicidal. I had written a suicide note, but by the grace of God, I was too chicken to follow through with that. As I stood there, being separated after all those years, and saying, really crying out to God, like, hey, why is it you want me to still live, right? Like, what is it? I really started to begin to get curious and question, how, because my husband, he knew the Lord as well, and I knew the Lord, and we'd been in church. I'd worked for many churches. I worked for mega churches. I worked for little churches. I worked, I'm very involved in churches, ran children's programming, was in leadership positions in churches. And yet, here we found ourselves, separated and toxic, and I found myself depressed, and I know he was depressed, stressed, just really there was no joy. And that, on the other side of that separation, in trying to say, what is it you want, God, and getting curious, really just asking, what is it that we missed? How is it that two people who read your word and, went to church regularly were so far from the fullness that God had intended for us? And so this gnawing question, kept coming up. And, as I was sitting at my laptop one day, a strange video popped up as I was crying out to God, and it was this little video of Napoleon Hill, and he wrote Think and Grow Rich. And, he starts talking, and I'm like, what is this? And why is this popping up on my screen? And I heard him say, each of us are born with two envelopes, and one is labeled blessings and the other is labeled curses. And, right away my mind went to Deuteronomy and, how God spoke about the blessings and the curses. And I was like, what is this? And so I was drawn in, to listening. And, then he said, clearly, what the mind, what you think is basically what you create. And so when I heard that, it struck me, and I was like, what is this? And I began to dig through my Bible, and what I discovered, was so much even more. What I discovered was truly what I had been missing, in the Word, what I had been missing being in many churches, really, I feel like I was just under a spirit of religion. And it's not because churches are bad. It's just that they don't know what they don't know, that they haven't had a full revelation of the kingdom of heaven and what God's actual intent was for mankind, and what his intent was for the earth. And so I began to allow the Holy Spirit to really, go deep. I went through some counseling, went on a big journey, even on a journey with my husband. He actually, about 2 years after as we were separated, we were still married, but living in separate houses, but we still had joined business together. So, we still had children that we were raising, and he was still a part of my life, and he got diagnosed with cancer of the esophagus. So I then, our family made a commitment to walk through and be a family till his last breath. So there was a lot of healing. God stretched me to have compassion and tender heart towards my husband. And so I always say we ended in a successful marriage. Even though we still lived apart, it was still a successful marriage in the end. A successful marriage is till death do you part. But after he passed, I would say that was another defining moment for me, because, after the grief and after, walking through that season, what came to me was that I was frustrated, and very grieved, because what I saw was that my husband had buried with him all of the potential that God had placed inside of him, and that he had all of his great ideas. And he was a brilliant, brilliant man. He was so intelligent, and he was one of the most generous men that I actually knew. But he also had many, many wounds and fears and limiting beliefs and lies that held him back and held our family back, truly, myself included. I was a part of that. These limiting beliefs and lies held us back from living the fullness of the kingdom of heaven on earth as God intended. And so at that point, a new, my why was birthed, that I was not going to leave, my children. I was not going to leave this earth. I was going to leave a lasting legacy, an example of how we are to live as citizens of heaven on earth, to live under the blessings that Jesus restored to us. And I got so determined about this. And I have been on this journey truly, really since 2014 of allowing God to transform my life, my mindset, my heart, first and foremost, and my mind. And then, God really revealed to me the power. We've heard about this, the power of the tongue, the power of the words, but really, really understanding how we were created and how God, spoke. He spoke into existence everything. So this is what this podcast is about. It's about faith. It's about believing beyond ourselves, believing beyond more than what you and I could ever imagine. It's about walking in the truth of our identity. It's about using the authority that God has given us to steward the kingdom of heaven in the earth. It's about I help business owners, grow into wealth creators as God intended them to be, that their business wasn't meant to be in strife. Jesus said his yoke was easy. Yes, there are troubles in the world, but God has gone before us, and it's going to be, we're going to talk about all of this, and we're going to talk about all things supernatural. We're going to talk about the Holy Spirit. We're going to talk about the gifts of the Spirit. We're going to talk about our, angels and anything else, that God has revealed to me to help you be the best version of you. Because I know that inside of each and every one of you are specific gifts, talents, assignments, dreams, books, paintings, music, businesses, right? Dances, things that are specific to who you are and what he's placed you in this world to do when he's placed you in that beautiful garden, right? And so we're going to dig into that, and I'm going to encourage you to believe it until you then are encouraging somebody else to believe it. So this is what Release Your Sound is all about. And I'm going to come on and I'm going to talk each week, and I've got special awesome people that I want to invite on to share. We're going to talk about the brain. We're going to talk about the vibration of heaven on earth. We're going to talk about all of those things, and we are going to shatter the lies and the deception and all of the things of this world that God never intended for you and I, so that we could step in and live fully alive for the glory of God. So this is what Release Your Sound is. And I'm looking forward to episode number 2. And I'm looking forward to lining up all kinds of, special guests for you all. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you and, sharing with you about, the Launch Collective, and, we have a mastermind, and we have an online community, and, we do, events. Last fall we did virtual Wealth Creators Rising. We used to do these things in public, but the world has changed. But God showed me the gift in that, because now we're global. We can go anywhere in the world, and we can reach and share, and help others, be all that they can be too, right? So I'm excited, and I hope you continue to tune in and join me on the journey. connect with me, subscribe, put something in the little chats there. Send me a message. You can connect with me on my website, www.launchcollectiveexpo.com, or you can email me at Laurean at Launch Collective Expo. You'll find my information in the bio here. Glad to meet you all. I'm excited to meet you all. It is no coincidence that you have tuned in. The Lord has something for you that He wants you to hear, because you have a unique sound that the world is waiting for you to release too. So, looking forward to it. Thanks for listening. Have a great evening.
Thanks for listening to Release Your Sound with Laurean Kile. Connect with Laurean at launchcollectiveexpo.com. Find out more about her, the Launch Collective Expo, and join the collective, the online community for kingdom-minded entrepreneurs. And help us expand the kingdom by sharing this broadcast and subscribing.